Hello there, Pragmatic Optimists. I'm State Senator Tiara Mack, and I'm joined by attorney Rachel Cohen, who is making me very jealous because she's tuning in from New York City, where Mondani has just won the mayoral election. We are going to talk about a few more elections that were happening across the country at the local, the statewide. There's a couple of gubernatorial candidates. And while we can say with some certainty that voters turned out in a rebuke to Trump and Trumpism in these last 10 months, we also have a couple of mixed bag results. While people are definitely showing out to show that they are going to stand in firmer solidarity with their community members, I don't know if that means that we're going to have an open embrace of the Democratic Party and other Democratic candidates. And if the success that we saw in Mamdani's campaign is replicable to other communities and other elections. And Rachel, I don't know if you've been tuned into some of the more local elections, but some things that were giving me hope and some things that I want to call out before we dive into the meatier parts of our discussion is in Maine, there were two ballot initiatives, one to protect access to mail ballot voting and to prevent a Republican initiative to only allow one mail ballot drop off location in each city. There was also a red flag law passed in Colorado. Voters turned out to vote to tax the wealthiest people in their state in order to fund free lunch and free breakfast programs and also to bolster SNAP benefits. And there were a host of other local elections. In Providence, we had a city council seat and a special election. Many people probably went to their ballot boxes, were as disappointed as some of the people in my state who weren't able to vote for Mamdani. But there were some good heartwarming wins throughout the country that show Americans and that show people what is possible. When we're talking about tax the rich, it doesn't have to be on the federal level in order for it to make an impact. Thank you to the Colorado voters who are showing that food and food security, especially for young people as they're accessing their education, is a priority. To Maine voters who passed red flag laws that are going to be life-saving and that are going to prevent mass gun violence, thank you. We also had the first Muslim woman elected to a statewide office in Virginia. Lots of historic firsts. I believe I also saw in Virginia they elected their first Chinese American woman. So those are just some of the heartwarming one-off elections. But Rachel, what are you seeing between our highly watched New Jersey and Virginia governor races that also elected two women? Virginia, a woman for the first time, is going to take the governorship. And we also got a win in New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill, both are former congresswomen.
I think that it is a referendum on Trump, right? People wanted to show up and vote against him. And I'm really grateful that they did, especially because we could not have turned over gubernatorial seats like New Jersey's to the Trump administration. Because at this point, I think pretty much everyone in the Republican Party is just taking their marching orders from whether it's Donald Trump or a member of his cabinet like Stephen Miller. They're just letting him do whatever he wants and going along with whatever policy, right? And so it is really, really important that we have strong bulwarks at the state level. And I'm excited for both Mikey Sherrill and for Abigail Sparrenberger. I think it's interesting because they both ran pretty centrist Democrat campaigns, especially in the primaries. I don't believe that there was a super progressive, like big progressive alternative in Virginia in the primary. But in New Jersey, there was in Ras Baraka, the mayor of Newark. And I think that I'm interested to see what lessons people take from this, because there is a real sense of, well, we have to vote for like the centrists so that they can win. But where we're seeing progressives lose is in the primaries and not in the general elections. And I think it's really important for people to just be tracking that, not because I think that, that means that you have to believe a certain thing, but because I reject the kind of rhetoric and messaging of we have to vote to play it safe. And there's an organizer who does electoral work that I know from college named Brian Derrick. He does really incredible work with this company called Oath that he founded, or company like an organization called Oath that he's founded that focuses on directing dollars to really high need elections, especially at the state level, and has done incredible work. But he went online close to the primary and was talking about how he didn't think that Mamdani was a viable candidate in this moment. And he wished that people had united behind Brad Lander. And I really respect that after the primary, he came on and posted and seeing kind of the excitement of Mamdani, he came on and said, I have to admit that I was wrong. Like, I totally misread that. That's not where the electorate is at. And I'm really excited about what Mamdani is doing. And this is great. And I
Wow.
think that
If
we need
only every
more.
Democratic leader had that exact moment. If only.
No, literally, I was like, oh my God, no one does this. Like, this is
Yeah.
so important. It's so important that people can start realizing that, hey, the conventional wisdom might be a little bit wrong. But I do think one of the takeaways is there are progressives that lost their races in not like primaries, but Democrat v. Democrat elections. I'm really
Mhm.
disappointed in the outcome of the mayoral in Minneapolis, for example. Omar Fatah, I think, is a great candidate. Ilhan Omar campaigned very hard for him. The party was working, they stripped him of his endorsement by the Minneapolis Democratic Farmer Labor Party. Um, it was very controversial, and
Mm.
it's hard to know exactly what the takeaways are there, right? Like, it's easy,
Well,
just as it is easy for people to point and say, well, the takeaway from New Jersey, incorrectly, the takeaway from New Jersey is we need to run centrists. It's also wrong for me to say the takeaway from Minneapolis is that the party prevented Omar Fatah from winning. It's more complicated than that. And we need to dig into voter turnout, I think, in particular, is a big thing for me. And I don't think that we can rely on anti Trump sentiment necessarily to fuel us through increased voter turnout down the line. But I am feeling really optimistic about the impacts that Donald Trump's incredibly unpopular policies have had on driving people to the polls. This is a 2025 off election year, and voter turnout stats, at least in New York, where I've been following them most closely, have been incredible. And I think that maybe that is a takeaway that we'll continue to dive into and discuss and refine as those numbers come out, because I am of the opinion that politics right now is almost exclusively a turnout game, and we have to focus there. And you obviously had a thought on that, and I want to turn it back over to you.
So I think one of the things when it comes to turnout, I was talking to Mike Nellis, who we were both on his podcast in the last couple of weeks. And one of the things that I think is missing from the conversation around voter turnout is having a compelling platform that brings people to the ballot box. Having something that you can say, here's what I'm running on, and here's where I'll get results that is people centered. People show up, and we've seen this, and some of my conversation was centered around abortion access. Even in deep red states, abortion polls better than Republicans and Democrats. And why is that? Because people are showing up for a specific issue, and they're showing up for things that they know will have a tangible impact on their lives. And so some of the takeaways I think will be, and there's going to be tons of pundits and tons of commentators like us who are going to be taking to social media in the next couple of days and weeks talking about lessons that we can learn from Mamdani's race. I think we really have to look at what messaging were bringing people out, what messengers are bringing people out, and then what is the role in the party and establishment politician and establishment players at the local level. I'm in Rhode Island. I am not part of the Rhode Island political establishment. And oftentimes, some of the people I fight the hardest in order to get wins in my state is within my own party. And so sometimes I think the party needs its own reckoning. Like you said, they also need to take some moment to reflect. And I hope that's one of the lessons. I'm also curious to hear a little bit more about where do we think Virginia and New Jersey are telling us? Donald Trump, in his endorsement speeches, I think he endorsed and made a comment about the Republican opponent to Mikey who won in New Jersey, but he had no mention of Winsome Earl in Virginia. I think the writing was on the wall that she probably was not going to win that election. It was
Mhm.
two women candidates in both parties, which is always great to see. But I think Virginia also went blue for their House of Delegates. So congratulations for keeping a majority that will also play a big role in some of the conversations around redrawing the maps between now and 2030. But what are some of the takeaways, and what can we say about the candidates who don't look like Mamdani, who did win in these more high profile races? Is it saying that we should the lesson be that we are running candidates who are painted as like more centrist, or again, is the message of the country, with states like Colorado passing things like taxing the wealthiest people so that they can fund food programs, telling us two different pictures about America and where the Democratic Party should start really leading. And I've also seen folks say that maybe Schumer is not our leader. Maybe because he,
Maybe. Maybe.
maybe, I don't know. The internet said it, not me. Okay, I'm just a girl with
Dang
a
it.
podcast.
Oh my God.
Um,
Um,
he stayed out of the Mamdani race, and even
no, I
without his
believe it.
support, and even without Jeffrey's support, Mamdani was able to see a level of success. But is that indicative of the entire country or this one specific race?
I think I have two high level takeaways. Number one, I want people to stop saying that we can't run women. Like, I have seen that rhetoric so often from so many people. Oh, the reason that we lost is because we ran a black woman. Oh my gosh. Okay. There are genuinely people in this country that will not vote for a woman. There are people in this country that will not vote for a black woman or a black person. Those people are not your allies. Like those people, oh, we really need to turn out the people who will only vote for a white. Oh, we need more Proud Boys to vote for us. Like, grow up. And so
Detroit just elected its first woman mayor, and she's black. That was yesterday.
there we go. But I do think I don't want to be dismissive of the realities of gender politics in these moments. I just think that when people on our own side are like disqualifying fantastic female candidates because they're like, I just don't know if they can win. That is the biggest thing that we have to fight is this notion of, well, I just don't know. That's the best candidate for me, but I don't know if they can win because of this identity that they hold. So get your ass out and canvas and make sure that people aren't voting against women because they're women. What? Like, and so that's thing number one. Thing number two, and I think these tie together, that's also true of people with transformative politics. Like, I think that a big takeaway from this election is that people are mad at Donald Trump and they're going to vote for the fucking Democrat right now. And so to play it safe and say, so we need to really appeal for Republicans. No, because the people that want to vote against Donald Trump because they hate him are going to want to vote against Donald Trump no matter what. And the people that are going to be galvanized and turned out and excited by a reinvigorated Democratic Party that is speaking to transformational change in this country are not going to be turned out for the sake of like a centrist. They will turn out because they are excited about new policy, because the voter turnout in New York through the roof, because it's something new and exciting and people feel like hope. And so I think that all of this to say, I'm really not trying to come in and diagnose and be like, and the best thing to do is to tack left in every single race and across the country. Like, I feel that personally because those are my politics, but I also am not trying to be dismissive of people who know their own communities and the sentiment on the ground and everything else. I do just think that where we should disqualify it is that notion of this just can't win here, because I think that it can't both be true that people really want to put Donald Trump in his place through the ballot box, and also that we are going to lose people by having
Yeah.
candidates run on everyone should have health care like no matter what.
Like
So
people
I'll
want
give
to
it
put
back to you
Trump,
to wrap.
yeah. Sorry, not to, we're
No,
speaking over you. I'm so
not
excited.
even
But then
joking. No. Like,
people are excited to put Trump out of office because they've now diagnosed corporate greed and individualism and authoritarianism as the root cause of their material living conditions. People are now starting to connect those two thoughts that you just put together. Yes, we can have candidates who understand their community and how candidates can respond to the material needs of their everyday life. And so when you're able to connect those things, I don't have access to healthcare in rural America, and it's because Republicans are lining the pockets of their billionaire buddies, and they are going to let ACA tax credits expire and raise healthcare premiums and shut down hospitals all around me. That is the message I think that is going to start proliferating. And again, we're just girls with a podcast. We're not going to be able to diagnose everything in the Democratic Party, but I think our politics, and we've had conversations. It might have been online and it might have been offline about our politics aren't just get young people who are to the left in office. It's get people who are viable candidates with real viable ideas into office. And that's how we change the narrative across our country. And I know we have already had a bunch of Hope Corps for today. I kind of like blurted out a couple of other really big wins. I mentioned that the Detroit mayor is a woman for the first time, and she's a Black woman. There are several other firsts all throughout the country, mayoral races, lieutenant governorships, and other statewide. There are also 3 Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices that were maintained to have a Democratic majority in Pennsylvania, which will also help to preserve some core functions of our democracy, because everything and everyone lives better and works better when we live in a strong democracy, which is under attack under this Trump administration. And so we have so much more Hope Corps to lay on you, Praggies, but we are going to wrap this week's episode. We hope you remember to like, subscribe, share, go kiss a New Yorker if you haven't already, because they're deserving. And we'll see you next week. Bye, Praggies.
Bye, y'all.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.